For all of the incredible sights and experiences that you have on Trunk Island, there's no question the most magical is this procession of the Murres and their chicks going to sea. It's a rite of passage. It happens at dusk. There's a cacophony of Murres sounds just ramping up. And the closer we get to dusk, the louder it gets. And by the time the sun's starting to set, there are these long lines of birds radiating out from the colony. And we know from decades of watching them, they use the same pathways. I actually think these are ancient pathways that would have been the same ones that the great ox would have walked. They just march along. I mean, they look like procession of clerics, in their black and white gowns, marching solemnly to sea. The thing that's so interesting about it is the community involvement. So you will see parents and young in these processions, but you see many more adults than you see young. And you can see that there's some kind of collective behavioral experience that's being shared by these animals. You'll see this procession is not without danger. You'll see the Murres, they're actually walking in between these gulls that are just watching, sharp-eyed to grab a chick if it stumbles. So there's all this going on, and there's lots of other Murres that engage in that procession. It's this density of animals that really helps protect those chicks. And it's actually the male's responsibility to take the chick to sea. And the female tends to, go back to the colony and stay there at the nest site. Eventually, they get to a cliff edge. You have to think about that little chick. It's never moved more than, probably 5 or 10 centimeters in its life. It's now walked maybe 100 or 200 meters to the cliff edge. And its parent will tend to jump into the ocean. And once it's in the ocean, it's just calling and calling and calling. And the chick has to make this leap of blind faith. It's never been in the ocean, it's never jumped off a cliff, and it just goes. I think it's the most incredible part of a bond that we see, because the animal has no other conception of what it's doing, where it's going, except its father is calling it to come, and it jumps. And with 1 million birds and all that noise, there seems to be individual recognition of that specific father to that specific chick. And you can see it when they're calling back and forth, because you can see lots of males calling on the water and lots of chicks calling, and they don't connect at all. They're waiting for that call, that individual recognition. Yeah, unbelievable. What we can tell from tracking studies, it seems like the male will stay with that chick for the next 2 months and obviously feed it and show it how to feed at sea. And realize that this time the chick is flightless, for probably over that 2-month period. Its wings aren't fully grown. But the male at this time also molts all its flight feathers. So it's flightless as well. And you end up with the male and the chick swimming either often northward to Labrador or out onto the Grand Banks. And so after 2 months, I would guess it might be just like the mates. They probably just go their separate ways.